The Sciforror Film Podcast. Hello and welcome to the Sciforror Film Podcast. We are here again. This is 2025. I am Andy Walker and I am joined as always by my son Scott. Hello, Scott.
Hello. You say it's 2025 like that. It makes it sound like I know we have been doing this a while. It's just it doesn't. It didn't really clock until you said it's 2025. Like how long we've been doing this.
It is season 6.
Yes.
Season 6, episode 1. Lovely hat, by the way.
Thank you. It's covering the massive neglected hairstyle that I forgot to cap my hair the other day. So
I've got a hole in the side of my head, but
yeah, I have just noticed the fact you were doing that.
Which is quite fun.
Your brain's trying to escape.
I need to trim up a bit.
It was the thing. I trimmed my beard up and I missed a bit. I understand it, but I left my hair to grow over the winter, and it got to the point where I'm just like, yeah, I got to the point where I was like, I need to cut my hair, and then I was like, I just really can't be arsed.
Fair enough. That's fair.
So, but then I look at myself and I'm like, oh.
So I hope everybody out there had a good Christmas and New Year, and that you may have watched our Christmas and New Year programs or whatever, and that you've had a good January. And here we are.
Yes.
Ready to go again. The good news for the future is that the Horror Film Festival in Romford is going ahead as far as everybody knows. So that will be good. And we do have passes for it to review back, to do a report back of the films there. So that'll be good. In other news, I don't know. Some other things have been going on. There's been lots of new films out. Some of them have been interesting in looking at people's comments about them and reviews of them. The only one of the sort of like newish films that come out that I've seen is Longlegs, which I had to watch because it was so. I've read so many negative things about it, and I thought I've got to watch this. I've got to see what it's like. And actually, I thought it was quite good.
It's one of the things that I've done is that I tried not to look at the reviews of them anymore because there's so many people out there that go, "Oh, this film's rubbish," and I've watched it, and I'm like, "What were you watching?"
I mean,
don't be wrong. There are a couple out there, and I'm like, yeah, okay, but
it's not the greatest film ever. It's got elements of like Silence of the Lambs, and it's got elements of a couple of other films, and it's got things, but it's, on the whole, it's a pretty good film. I quite enjoyed watching it. So there you go.
So you've been on a bit of a film watching spree from what I've seen all over social media, and
yeah, well, I've started this thing which is I got from somebody else's thing, which is it's to watch a film a week for the entire year, and every week has its own theme.
Okay.
So like the first week was what was the first week? First week was a film with a colour in the title, so I watched The Green Knight because that's a film I hadn't seen that lots of people talked about. There was one that was about sports, which I thought I would watch The Big Lebowski because lots of people talked about that and recommended I watch it, and I thought it was to do with sport because I thought it had stuff to do with bowling. In actual fact, there's not very much bowling in it at all. And I thought it was actually quite a boring film. I just didn't get why everyone loved it so much. But yeah, so it's like that. And there are things like, a film with a month in the title, a film with the hardest one is a non-horror film with the word devil in the title. Now, I can only think of two. One I watched last year, which is called Devil in a Blue Dress. and the other one is The Devil Wears Prada. So,
Yeah, it's
I mean, it could be argued that the film The Devil's Advocate isn't a horror, but it kind of is a bit. But yeah, I don't
yeah,
know.
it's sort of it goes with the territory, really, doesn't it? It's
Yeah, but so
it's,
that's what I'm doing. I'm kind of doing that and trying to read a bit more and trying to be a bit more creative. Da, da, da. I want to create things a bit more this year.
yes, I have
So
noticed with the emails that you have sent me about things that you've asked me to look
yeah,
at. I have
I've
noticed
written
that.
a couple of screenplays and things. They need honing, but they're or tweaking, but they are there and I'm not. Yeah, there's a couple of them I'm not sure about, but I'm kind of working on them. Whether or not I ever get to make them into films, I don't know, but we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll
I
see.
understand. It's just it seems like a lot of people like this at the moment because we've got. Well, you're in the process of writing things. We know other friends of ours that have started off the year quite strong with films being released and news going on, and
Yeah,
so it seems like it's going to be quite a good year for horror and or just filmmaking in general.
yeah. Yes, it'd be interesting to see what happens with it all.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, shall we get on with the reviews?
Yeah, let's do
I
that.
thought this year we would start off with science fiction.
So are we going to do a year then instead of be predominantly of one genre like we did last year?
No, no, I'm going to try and mix it up a bit more. I want to. I thought we'd start with science fiction because we ended last year with kind of horror-ish,
Yeah.
but it was weird horror with Uzumaki. So I
Yeah.
thought we'd start off with a couple of short science fiction films and a science fiction feature film.
Very weird science fiction feature.
So right, so the first the short films is a film called Proto. This
Yes.
is from Screen South and Film Fin and Verl. From Eye Candy Productions. Writer and director is Nick Pittum, and the cast is Mark Aitken, Matthew Steer, Kim Jensen. Anybody who watches this will probably recognise Mark Aitken and Matthew Steer because they've been in a fair few British TV films and series over the years. The synopsis for this film says it's a film about a childlike experimental robot set in the robotics lab where he has been built. Although Proto has been made to fulfill the ambitions of the creator, Professor Andrews, he learns to find his own dreams and ambitions and also the strength needed to realize them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, it says on YouTube, and I suppose this is right, that this is a film about freedom. It's about freedom of choice and freedom of actions and that kind of thing. I quite like this film. The CGI and the effects and that were really good, well done. The animation and that was really well done. There's like two robot characters, and they're both really well developed as characters.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. What did you think?
So, I read this about the whole freedom thing, and I agree, but I also think it's got. I don't know if everyone sees it this way, but for me personally, it was more of the whole. If you've got a dream, if people keep telling you you've got to do it this way, you've got to do it this way, you can't do it that, you've got to do this step, and you've got your own path that you want to do. It's not always the wrong thing.
Yeah,
It's like you've got to have, I suppose, yeah, that freedom of choice. That whole, if you make a mistake, you know that you've done your best to do it. And I like this film because of the fact that it shows the fact that even at the end with the fact that he disobeys what's going on and runs off. When the professor turns around, he's got that sort of smile and proud sort of look on his face.
Yeah,
The guy is trying to do. So it's that whole yes, he's disobeyed him, but he's advanced, I suppose, in his programming.
yeah.
Um, it does sort of give me a bit of a weird thing for where or not that's where history where do they go with society? The fact that we're going to start building robots and then they're going, now, Sodja,
Well, you see, I quite like the fact that they built this robot with the idea of it being used for war, and it goes, "No, I don't want to do that. I want love and
yeah,
music."
want to play violin. And
Yeah, love and music is far better than war,
yeah,
which I think is
which
great.
I agree with. It's the fact that looking after each other and supporting each other way better than killing each other.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
And
the acting I thought was very good in it, considering the fact that they were acting to. I don't know. I don't think they. I mean, it was filmed in a proper robotics lab, but
yeah,
I can't imagine that they had anything there that they could act to that would look like the robots you saw.
no, I think looking at the imagery of the robots, that was definitely the CGI and put in later. So it must have been. I mean, there must have been something there for there to get the right height right, but it was still very well acted. I think.
Yeah, it's. I don't know how easy. I've never done it. But I don't know how easy it is to act to sort of CGI imagery. It's not something I've ever done, so I don't know. But yeah, it's a good idea. It was a well-made film, and
I liked it actually. I think that so the idea to it is it's not, I suppose, an original idea with the whole
no,
robots and trying to make them, I don't know, make things so humans don't have to, but and then fighting back. But I like this one. I like this the fact that it's not they're they're revolting and they're sort of fighting back and trying to take over or whatever it is. They just want to be happy.
yeah, no, I agree. Okay, so that's the first one. The second film is called Lost in the Sky. This is on Dust, so it's difficult to tell exactly how old this thing is because
Yeah,
we know Dust sometimes puts stuff on there, and then the date it goes on there isn't necessarily the date it was made.
yeah,
This is from the director was Simon Oster, and the writer is Kevin Dullberg. And the synopsis for this film says a lone rescue robot in a strange galaxy must reach a surviving astronaut before she's consumed by a looming black hole.
yeah,
Now, the interesting thing I've read is it says that it's a live action space adventure made entirely with practical effects.
yeah,
If it is made entirely with practical effects and not CGI, it's an amazingly good film
yeah.
because the effects are really good.
Yeah, even just the robotics were amazing. But yeah, if it was, then yeah, again, I agree with you. It's an amazingly good film. If it's just them saying that to get the hype,
Yeah,
which I think there could be in parts, but I don't know. I think for this, it's very hard to tell.
yeah. I mean, it's a great idea and it's a well-made film. And again, it's interesting. The thing I found interesting about both of these films is that the robot in this one, like in the other one, the robot is a really well-developed character. It's not just you look at it and it's a two-dimensional, like it's a robot that's doing its
Yeah,
job and that's it. It's driven by ambition to be good and to be better.
yeah. What I liked about it is the fact that it the robot and the body language, I suppose it gives off in its actions, tells way more of a story than if someone was narrating it or if it
Yeah,
was like I suppose even if it was a human because of the fact that it's one of the moments like was it programmed or is it learned to have them learn
yeah,
is it learn them feelings and them thoughts and them actions to know that this is it wants to save people and the fact I suppose even I wouldn't say facial recognition, but the reactions to when it doesn't, like the first one, he thinks there's something to rescue and there's nothing there, and
Yeah,
that sort of reaction, that disappointment you can see, I think
yeah,
is really well done, and I really like. I do again. I like this film.
yeah. I thought it was a really good film. And as I say, if it is made with practical effects, it's incredibly well done.
Yes.
Um, and the effects are really good.
Mm.
But as I say, I like the fact that they've developed the character of the robot. It's not just a robot, it's kind of like it
It's
has got its own character, its own thing. And as you say, it's kind of like, to me, it kind of seems to trying to want to do the best it can, and it's got a job to do, and it wants to do it really well
mm.
and succeed.
What I liked about both of these is the fact that even though yes, they're sci-fi films, and we've said about it before about the fact that a lot of sci-fi films that we've watched lean heavily on it's sci-fi because it's robots, or it's sci-fi because it's in space, or it's sci-fi because of it. But both of these films don't. I don't think. I think that it's got that. Yes, this is a sci-fi film, but that's not what we're leaning heavily on.
Yeah, it's
Like
more
the
about
first,
the
obviously,
relationship and the
yeah,
personalities.
yeah. The first one's got the I suppose the wannabe human aspect to it, and then this one is the trying to do better and be better no matter. And I think if it the whole story and the concept would have worked in any sort of genre, if it doesn't just it works better in sci-fi because it's got that. Obviously, you've got the machine side of it trying to be human,
Yeah,
and then but it's also got that side of showing the fact that it is better because of the fact that it's trying to be better and not just being selfish.
yeah. No, 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 I agree. I really like that. I thought it was a good film. Okay, on to our feature film. Now, the feature film is from 2018, and it's a film called Encounter. It was written and directed by Paul Salamoff. The cast on this is, well, I'm not going to give all the cast, but just some of the cast. Luke Hemsworth, brother, of course, of the other Hemsworth who plays Thor. His name, I cannot
Chris
remember at the moment. Uh,
Chris Hemsworth who plays
Chris,
Thor, and then you've
yeah,
got Liam and Luke Hemsworth.
yeah. And Anna Hutchinson, Christopher Shelman, and Tom Atkins, who has been in lots of films over the years. Now, synopsis for this film says a group of friends uncover an otherworldly object in a rural field, which they soon discover holds greater secrets than they could imagine.
Yeah,
So, I've got to say, in a lot of ways, this reminds me of the old sort of 60s B movies that I used to love watching.
yeah.
Um, it's kind of got the same sort of story that they used to use to make them from. You know what I mean? That the sort of the group of people discover this thing, which then turns out to be an alien being that kind of like, and there's some people trying to destroy it, and they're trying to stop them. You know.
Just yeah, I get it. It's just so bizarre. Just because again, it's how quickly. I know, obviously, like we said before, it's scripted, but how quickly everyone, apart from one, I suppose, sort of seems to go, okay, yeah, it's fine, it's here,
Mm.
and it's just like, no.
It-
Um, I do like the references that they had in it though, like
mm.
the sort of when I obviously what then Luke Hemsworth character gets sort of Liam Hemsworth, sorry, his character sort of
Luke,
gets attacked by the creature, and they're like, how do we know it's not like sort of invasion of the body snatchers sort of thing? And I like the fact they reference other films to do with it,
yeah.
but yeah, it's very bizarre, and I don't know, it just sort of it wasn't what I was expecting it to be.
No, I know what you mean. Um, it. I kind of like. I mean, I like the idea. And the basic sort of story and idea, I think, is really good. Some of the acting is a bit,
Yep.
and it's not great. And some of the characters are just really, really cliched. It's just like, oh, please.
Stereotypical, like
Yeah,
sort of, especially the FBI agents. There's the
yeah,
one that's happy to like, wants to do things by the book, and then you've got the rogue agent that wants to just get the bust, and it's just like,
yeah.
but it's
Um,
just I don't know, it's just
it's not, I mean, the thing about it is, I mean, whilst I would say the thing that got me most was the fact that the alien thing itself starts off quite good. But then as it
yeah,
grows, it gets more and more silly looking and cartoonish.
yeah, it's
And it starts looking a bit like you had no money to
yeah.
spend on this, did you? You
It's sort of
basically
like
got
they
some,
started it all off, and then by the time they got to going, we need to develop this alien, they went, we've run out of money.
you got
And
some
it's just
bits, you got some bits from an old sort of like water pump thing and some bits a, a,
it,
a,
it
a
almost
card car sort of cleaning place or something like that and stuck them together.
it looks like it's sort of I don't know, especially the end form, I suppose.
Yeah,
It sort of looks like you see like I don't know if you've ever been to like sort of Halloween stores and you've got that sort of that is there's like Halloween store and you've got like this creature that sort of slumps in the corner because they're like yeah we'll just put it over there because no one's really going to be interested. It's sort
yeah,
of just push it to one side. It just sort of slumps in the corner and forgotten about. And it's just sort of like
yeah.
okay, but it's just
It does look a bit cartoony.
yeah,
But I
just
mean, the thing is, I mean, mm, it's not the best film I've ever seen.
no,
It's not the best science fiction film ever made. It looks like it was made quite on the cheap, and they probably spent more on the fact that they had Luke Hemsworth in it than a lot of other things because he's got a name that people might go, oh, right, okay, I know
yeah,
that. Um, but it's not. It's nowhere near the worst film I've ever seen. It's not bad.
no, it's weird because I did find myself sort of getting to the point where I was like I got about halfway through it and I was like this is awful.
Yeah,
And then I got to the end and I'm like, I actually sort of sat there at the end of it and found myself being quite invested
yeah.
into it. Because when it ended, I was like, and I sat there afterwards when it happened. I was like, so what's going to happen? Like, you can't just leave it there. What's going on? What's going to happen?
Mm.
And I sort of realised that I was like proper invested in it. It's just, it's a very bizarre ending.
Yeah, the end is a bit odd because it doesn't actually tie things up very well.
No,
And I'm not quite sure about how he. I I was trying to work out how it used DNA from all of them to make a creature that ended up being exactly the identical copy of their daughter that had died.
yeah,
That was
and
a
the
bit
fact that
weird.
they're supposedly using the material from the old man.
Yeah,
It's just the thing is as well that it sort of led you down the path of when he was talking about the butterflies,
yeah,
and I thought, okay, this then leads to we never sort of turn about that about like you've got it's gonna grow and then sort of like revolves into something else. But like, okay, so they think it's really nice and then it's gonna evolve and become something dangerous. Okay, and then it sort of went down the path he did. I was like, that's nowhere near close to what I guessed.
no. I mean, it kind of has the same sort of thing behind it, I think, as films like Cocoon, where they kind of tried to. It's like the aliens were here, but they weren't trying to hurt us,
Yeah,
you know. But yeah, it's not a bad film.
it's
It's.
it's definitely a film I say that I would quite happily watch again if it was say like the sort of Sunday afternoon
I
sort
think
of
it's
film.
kind of easy to watch nonsense. Really.
Yeah, it's sort of I don't know Saturday night sort of late night film to watch, or sort of one
If
that's
it,
on in the background on like a rainy Sunday.
I think if I had a night where I was having sort of like four or five mates round and we just fancied a couple of films that we could just watch and have a bit of a laugh at.
Yeah,
um, because they weren't meant to be funny, but they are quite funny. I think this is the sort of film I'd watch.
yeah, it's definitely one of them films you sort of go. It's almost like having one of them films to go. Have you seen this?
Yeah,
That's one of the like that film like is on that list of go. Have you seen this film? Because you've got to watch it to believe it.
yeah,
And it's sort of one of them films you've got to say to someone that you need to watch it. It's like because even if you say, look, it's got this person, this person, this person here, and this is what's gone on. You're not going to have to get the full story over without going. You need to watch it.
yeah, absolutely. I didn't dislike it.
No,
So
I was
it's
say
kind
it,
of,
it definitely drew me in at the end.
I think it wasn't a bad way for us to start the new
No,
year because it was a um inoffensive bit of nonsense to watch for a night.
yeah, it's almost good as well. I really like this as well. Watching an alien sort of sci-fi film that of that sort of class where it's not over the top with nudity or it's not over the top with like
Yeah,
trying to ram it down your throat. The fact that aliens are scary. It's the fact that sometimes they might actually just want to come here to go. We're here to say hi.
I I did I did ponder long and hard over the choice of films to start off with. I decided I definitely wanted us to start with sci-fi, and I
Yes.
pondered long and hard because um, in my searching to see if I could find some new-ish short sci-fi films and a sci-fi feature film, none of which were that old.
Yeah.
Um, I was looking around for them, and I came across about a dozen films that were all about time travel. And I thought, do I do I do that for the first week?
I've realised that I've how much I boycott so much. Because one of my friends said the same to me. Thing to me, there's a new series that's on Netflix started up,
Mm.
and it's about this sort of. It was meant to be like this slasher and everything's good. And I was like, oh, really invested. He went, yeah, the girl goes back in time to save her sister. And now you're right.
Yeah, I know. I've seen that. I've
I
seen
was
that one.
like, really
I
invested in
haven't.
it. I was like, oh, that sounds really good until he said that. I'm like, no,
I
no,
haven't.
you're
I
gone.
haven't seen it, but I've seen
Yeah.
about it.
But I was like, really invested. I was like, I'll definitely like, yeah, I'll watch it. I'll watch it. Until
I
he went, yeah,
quite
she goes
like.
back in time. I'm like, you're right.
There are a few I found which I quite like, which are ones where the people go back in time and they encounter the sort of paradoxes that you were continually going on about, and about how they try to overcome that, which are quite interesting. Um, but it's things
See,
I like things when they do things in time travel things. I like things like we used to watch Quantum Leap.
yeah.
And there was a brilliant episode of that where Sam gets sent back to be the agent, the agent who
Oh,
jumped
the
on the back
bodyguard.
of
Yeah,
jumped on the back of the car when JFK gets shot. And when it gets to the end of the episode, Sam turns around to Al and says, I don't know what I was here for. I've failed. And he said, that's because you don't remember. He said, I remember because I was there previously before you were sent back. Originally, the original timeline, his wife got shot as well.
yeah.
And I like that because it's like sort of, oh, so we're living in the timeline where she didn't.
Yeah.
I
See,
like that.
when they do stuff like that, to sit there and go, like when you sit there and go, actually, because of what you've done, you're now the timeline is now fine, and it's
Yeah.
pushed it into the timeline that everyone knows. That's
Yeah.
fine. But when they sit there and go back in time and go, like, do the whole butterfly effect sort of thing, when people
Yeah.
go,
Yeah.
oh yeah, like if you step on the butterfly, it's not going to change anything. And I'm like, but it can. And then like, so if they do things like, yeah, we're going to go back in time, but what we're doing is actually making that timeline follow suit.
It's like it's sort of if you went back in time and killed the start of a new line of animals or a new line of
Yeah,
species, when you came back to now, things would be changed so much. It wouldn't
Yeah.
just be a matter of like everyone would be riding around on dinosaurs.
Well, this is the thing. This is my thing is the fact that I know I keep going on about this, and I know it's probably too much to go on for the first episode. But my whole thing with time travel is they go, oh, you could go back in time and nothing would change. But yes, it would. Your mere presence of being in that timeline would change everything.
It wouldn't necessarily change everything. The thing about it is, if you were to go somewhere where you would have minimal impact by having no contact with people, and you didn't disturb the environment,
Yeah.
then you may be able to do it without having any real impact on what happens in the future.
Yeah.
Wouldn't
But
wouldn't make much of a story,
no,
admittedly.
but
Somebody
the thing,
somebody pops into existence in the middle of the field, looks around, maybe I don't know, does a sketch of a
see, the
tree,
thing is
and
though,
then
the
disappears
thing is,
again.
the thing is, even with that, for them to pop into the middle of the field and not cause an effect, they would have to float above the field to make sure that they weren't crushing
Well,
anything on the field.
no, but they wouldn't cause a big enough effect to make a huge effect, a difference to the timeline.
But they
Crushing
can
a
still
few,
cause an effect.
crushing a few blades of grass would not have a huge effect on the rest of the world and the
But
history.
it could have maybe not a huge effect, but it could have an effect.
Minuscule. If you wouldn't
But
even notice it.
yeah, but the thing is, the best film or best thing that I've read, which they talk about, is the book you showed me, which is about a time travel where they go back in time and they say you need to follow what goes on. You can't change anything.
Yeah,
But the main person, they go back to when Jesus was crucified, and they say that the guy that's the tourist or whatever realizes the only ones that are crying and the only ones that are wailing and doing the whole oh my god he's died and all that were the tourists that were sent back in time,
yeah.
and they're the ones that history recorded as everyone see him crying, but the ones that were only crying were the ones that went back in time.
Yeah. It's yeah, there's a couple of like things like that that are a bit like that. It's like there's one which is called it's by Michael Moorcock, which is called Behold the Man,
Yeah,
I think, in which a guy goes back in time, um, and he discovers that Jesus is actually when he finds Jesus is a young lad, and or is I think he's a teenager.
yeah,
So it's just before the Bible picks him up as doing anything major.
yeah,
And when he finds him, Jesus is actually he can't speak, he can't stand or walk, he can't talk, or he can hardly see. He's kind of like this disabled
yeah,
child that Joseph and Mary have locked away,
yeah,
effectively. And so because he has future knowledge and he also has future technology, takes it upon himself. He goes away into the desert for a period of time,
yeah,
comes back from the desert and takes on the role of Jesus and does all the things that the Bible says Jesus did.
yeah. I don't mind things like that, but it's just ones that sort of I don't know. They make it so they follow ones that follow where the timeline actually goes. Then that's
Yeah,
fine.
yeah. No. Anyway,
But
enough of all that.
yes,
Enough of all that biddly boddly bang. So there are films. The first one is a short film called Proto. Second one is a short film called Lost in the Sky. And the third one is a feature film called Encounter. I will, as I always do, I will put up links to those films. They're all on YouTube. And like that. Next week, we will be looking at horror again, or next episode rather. We will be looking at horror. Not sure if we're going to do this weekly or fortnightly or what's going to happen this year because a few things are going on. So
yeah,
we'll
we've
see
got
what
a
we
lot more
see.
stuff going on this year than
Yeah, we
we
may
had
end up
last
doing
year.
it fortnightly rather than weekly. So thank you very much, Scott, for your insight and chat and all that kind of thing.
Okay, I'm glad that I could do it, and glad to be back.
Yes, it's nice to be back, and thank you to everybody out there for sticking with us for 5 years and going into the sixth. And
Yeah.
hopefully, we'll be doing lots of reviews this year of all sorts of things and stuff like that.
Yes.
So, thank you very much for watching, and we will see you again soon. Bye.
Bye.
The Sciforror Film Podcast.